course of study, you should be able to do the annual goals. And the annual goals, they come from that assessment at the top. I mean, because you found maybe an area of need that that student needs to work on in a specially designed instruction area. They may need related services. They may need something to acquire those skills to get to that post-secondary goal. So they need to be stated in the IEP. There should be a direct relationship between that present level of performance and that goal. So what's in that present level and that goal should be directly aligned. And there we should also include academic and functional performance goals. So here's an example of a functional goal. Given Ocean County Community College, John will demonstrate knowledge of the college admissions requirement by verbally describing these requirements and identifying admission deadlines with 90% accuracy. A functional goal would be given a bus schedule adapted with pictures. Stephanie will select the correct time, stop for 5 scenarios of activities presented to her with 80% accuracy. And when we start talking about adult agencies, they tell us schools do really good on their academics, not so much on the functional. So we know the kid can do this, but when he gets out in the community, can he actually do it? We know the kid can do this academically, but can he transfer that skill to real life after high school? Can he move on with that skill? So functional is really important to have that piece written.
And I think a question that at least I get a lot, and I always ask Sally this one, is sometimes you get like that student who's on an IEP just for reading, college bound, and you get the call of, well, the student has reading goals because he wants to go to reading, and we have to get his reading better. Is having a reading goal enough to say it's supporting the post-secondary goal of going to college and studying this and this? So I get that question a lot. It probably would come up. I don't know if it would come up in this, but I don't know what your answer would be for that. Can we just have an academic goal that's still supporting the post-secondary goal?
You can have an academic goal, but in what we're looking at, it says an academic and functional. There should be something in there that talks about those skills that they may need, those reading skills, to use it for somewhere else. So I would say that I would like to see functional written in somewhere. I mean, you have to, the law says we're gonna write functional and academic performance. So again, when you talk about that high-level student going off to college, do they know how to bank? Do they know how to read a bus schedule because that's how they're going to get around? Have they, is that something that they need to acquire that skill in that functional area? So the last area that needs to be on here is coordinating services with adult agencies. And they're required, if inviting an adult agency to the IEP, you need to have consent. So you need to make sure that you remember that is consent of the parent or the adult students. It's if any student may need to access like VR, brokerage, ODDS, some of those adult agencies, and they should be reviewed annually because you may have made a decision maybe as an 11th grade student to talk about VR, but maybe VR isn't the adult agency that's going to be invited or be a part of. A case manager came from disability services and they're going to possibly be in a brokerage. So you need to make sure that you're reviewing these annually.
So Sally, could you review what brokerages are again?
A brokerage is the agency that would take care of that student for, okay, let me think.
ADLs.
Yeah.
What is ADOs?
Activities for daily.
Activities daily living.
Yeah, daily living, they would be your service providers. It's waiver money that, so if you think about a brokerage, they're personal choices that a family has made to get their services for maybe living, maybe employment, maybe entertainment, maybe all those areas are going to come in to play
Respite.
for that, it could be some respite that they're using, they get this certain amount of money. And it used to be that it was a pot of money that was given to a family, and you say, how are you gonna use it? And you picked your brokerage, it's a choice plan. But there's a new plan, and I hate to go into this again, but it's a K plan that's coming out, and you're now taking an assessment instead of it just being your choice. You take an assessment, and that assessment's going to be put in a machine, and out pops a golden ticket that says these are the hours that you get for your employment. These are the hours you get for job shadowing. These are the hours. So it's going to be designed for you. Because we used to tell them you have $45,000 to spend. Now we're going to tell them they have hours to
And
use.
brokerages are for 18 and over or 21 and over?
21 and over. So they're adult agencies. So when that student leaves school, they're the people that would take it. So you want a seamless transition from school to their agency. The last day of school, and that student leaves school at 21, that next day should look exactly the same. They should have been involved the whole time that you've been making all these plans.
Brokerage services are like a grant, very small grant to the family for them to decide what kind of services. It's done through DHS, it's completely on the K waiver, and it's completely separate
Yeah.
from educational services. But you can ask the family if they want to use some of their brokerage funds to support an IEP.
Because I'm asking these questions because I'm your backup.
Mm-hmm.
I have, for YSF data, brokerages are not totally,
And that's where the executive order is, huge right now. The governor is saying, we do an okay job with these services, but we need to coordinate them. And the law IDEA says it's our job to facilitate that partnership with adult agencies. So with VR, with DHS, with anything that student may need. And it could even be, you could even be inviting the counselor if that's a possibility. I had a few counselors that came from the community college that were a part of that, because they were the people in the disability services office that were going to help that student when they went off to the community college. So it's any agency that might be providing services or paying for services. And I think what's happening is on IEPs, we're not documenting that. We're not documenting that participation. Or maybe that VR person couldn't be there, but they gave me some information and I didn't document it. So sometimes when they're not in compliance on their IEPs, it's because they can't find the information about the interaction with that agency. And if you're in DD services, oftentimes your case manager has been with you from a very young age all the way through, and then when they get to be an adult, that's when your brokerage people take over. So it's through a case manager through DHS that is involved with you from early childhood ed sometimes, all the way through to 18, and then the brokerage takes over after that. Right now, that's a choice. That's a choice the family makes of which brokerage. It used to be one brokerage, now we have a lot of them out there, so they're making choices.
It would help me, because if somebody asked me this and you were sick and I'm presenting this, I'm gonna have no clue ISP, IPE, so maybe we should define
Okay.
this, because I don't know if
All right.
they're defined earlier, I don't think
It's
so.
an individual service
I kinda
plan,
figured
which
that
the
one.
service plan comes out of brokerage.
And then IPE.
The IPE is that's an individual plan for employment.
So I don't know.
So
how
the
much-
summary of performance is really important, because I've been training with the youth transition program and DHS and VR to tell vocational rehabilitation counselors, ask for a summary of performance, or ask if you can help add something to the summary of performance, because oftentimes if you're working with VR or you're working with DD services, they've done functional assessments. They have functional performance. And there's things that you can add to your IEP, and basically your summary of performance is that document that people are writing when that student graduates with a regular diploma or ages out. The summary of performance is a document required by the federal government. Our guidance from the State Department is that everyone should have a summary of performance. But a summary of performance is basically there's 4 things required in a summary of performance. It's the academic performance, the functional performance, a post-secondary goal, and the things that you needed to acquire, the skills to get to that post-secondary goal. So any of your accommodations, things that it took me to get to that to get the skills for that post-secondary goal. So there's only 4 areas that the federal government requires for the summary of performance. So this is a page out of the Red Book for now. It's actually a transition planning tool. So if you see right here, over there, if you see, this is a checklist of all the things that need to be included in a transition IEP. So if you've invited the student and that you've gotten consent for inviting an agency, that you've clearly identified their PINs, preference, interests, needs, and strengths. They are developed and you've done assessments. Your post-secondary goals include an employment, training, education, or you've at least considered all of those goals and written them in 2 areas. Your course of study covers each year between now and the expected graduation. If your annual goals support your post-secondary goal, and if you gave student notice that the education rights transfer over, that's a piece of transition. And that you've notified the student writing on his or her birthday at 18, their goal will be. These are just ideas, or not all of them, these are the 8 that pop out of you on indicator 13. So where you see the black, you need to invite the student, you need to do the assessment, you need to have that post-secondary goal, you need to identify transition services, you need to design the course of study, you need to develop annual IEP goals, and you need to coordinate with adult agencies. And this is the PINs over here that goes along with the assessment. If all 8 of those things are covered, you've covered indicator 13 in your IEPs, which I would say indicator 13. A lot of people don't know what indicators are,
But then you could just say you've covered the transition.
you've covered the transition standards. And this has a couple extra ones, like the age of majority and consent and some of those things. But people are finding this really useful at an IEP meeting to just say, I did it. So that was just a tool that was created last year. And I needed to let you know that this comes out of the Center of Change for Transition Services in Seattle. And they've told us that we could use this when I came 2 years ago, as long as we told everybody where it came from. So that's where we have designed that.